we would say that you're a blend between Dan Reeder and the Aquabats. Maybe they had a child, and maybe that child had really stylish sunglasses on. I was really, really enjoying my morning this morning. First thing I did, I woke up, I said, Alexa, play Nordista Freeze. And hopefully it doesn't do it right now. And I was just grooving and moving, and I've never felt quite so free and alive on a beautiful Mother's Day Sunday morning.
That's awesome, man.
Beyond that, how in the world are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm actually in Arkansas right now, helping my sister move back home. And
Okay.
but I'm doing well, man. I'm just taking it day by day. Honestly, it felt really good to drive to Arkansas. You know, it was my first time to like drive in so long. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
like from being on tour and driving every day. It's one of my favorite things to do. So getting to just come on a 5-hour road trip down here was very beautiful. I
Oh, I
feel
bet.
restored.
And I bet you made record time, too. That's kind of the great thing about zip-zamming around the country right now is I'm sure that, I mean, you can pretty much fall asleep at the wheel.
You could, man. Gasoline is under $1 over here too. So
No, what price did you see?
it was 98 cents.
What?
Yeah,
You know, I remember being a kid. I grew up in Southern California,
it's
moved
crazy.
out to Nashville about 11 years ago. And I remember asking my father, I said, there was like an abandoned gas station that still had the old signs up. Like, oh my goodness, gas used to be $1.29. He's like, oh yeah, it'll never be there again. This is, after the war in Iraq and all these things where gas prices were jacked up, getting to like
Yeah,
$5 a
totally,
gallon.
totally.
Can you believe it? I mean,
It's
this is
crazy.
old school.
It is old school, man.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, it is funny. That's how we grew up. Hearing it would never be like that. So to see it with our eyes is kind of like it's kind of shocking.
Well, for folks who don't know you, can you give a little bit of a background about who you are, what you focus on, and what your life is all about?
Yes, absolutely. So my name is Nordista Freeze. I'm a Nashville native, born and raised here in town, and kind of grew up in the burbs. Like I wasn't really a lot of like when I got into music. A lot of my friends, their parents did music. I kind of stumbled my way into it on my own. Although my dad is a worship minister at a church, so I did grow up singing and like doing choir. But yeah, like I just discovered music at a young age, a love for all types of weird music like Black Moth Super Rainbow and Animal Collective and stuff from my brother, and started making music on a tape machine. And from there, I just kind of fell in love with DIY art and music and what it means to just make something in your bedroom. Um, to this day, we still record like in a basement to tape. And I also fell in love with touring, and that's what I spend a lot of my time doing. I play about 150 shows a year and try to travel anywhere across the US and Canada, anywhere that'll have me. Playing a lot of house shows and, just DIY things, trying to slowly build some momentum. And I just focus on playing music, making art, and just trying to be a friend to people online, be a friend to people face to face when I can. And just, I don't know. I just, that's pretty much, I feel like that's the shortest version of who I am. Just a person living in Nashville, making art, playing a lot of shows, traveling around, celebrating the now, celebrating the moment. That's what I really believe in. It's not really like working towards the future, but really trying to be a part of this particular thing that's going on today.
Well, I gotta say, Nordista, I consider you to be one of the great true artists in Nashville. It's with very little pretension, and now that I know that you come from that religious lineage, I have a better understanding of what I've been seeing on stage over the last couple of years watching you play. It really is you're worshiping the dynamic and beautiful aspects of live music, of community collaboration, and I dig it big time.
Cool.
And
Thank
I
you.
do notice in your music a lot of it's very situational, right? It's you set a scene, you're laying these things out. So how has it been with a significant reduction in unique experiences to write music right now?
Wow, yeah, dude, that's a great observation. I do like to write a lot about. I do think a lot about settings. When I write a song, whether I say it in the song or not, I'm thinking about a space. Um, and that, honestly, I've been on tour for so long that this quarantine hasn't been difficult for me in that way. Like I thought it might be. I do love touring more than anything, but it's been my first big break in years. So it's nice. It's actually been nice for me creatively, I'll say. I feel pretty healthy. At times it gets hard. At times it's stifling when you just wake up and you're trying to write and you just feel like I'm in this same stupid room every single day, It can be demoralizing, but it's been good. It's been good for me. And you know, in that sense, obviously it's been tough in a lot of senses for a lot of people, but creatively I haven't felt as stifled as I thought I would be. It's actually been a really good way for me to kind of um, deconstruct and just kind of think about a lot of the experiences I've had over the last few years and really think about them a little bit deeper and kind of reflect on them. And because I feel like it's definitely the end of a chapter, for me, like whatever I do after this will be a new phase of life, if that makes sense.
No, it's true. This has hit touring musicians just about as hard as anybody, if not the hardest. Um, the the future of live music in the next decade is in question, and because we know that's true, and there's a lot of promises, vaccines, herd immunity, people kind of getting over this and it becoming a safe space again. But humans we're easily programmed, right? We can fall out of habits pretty easily. Now, with that being said, I would love to know what you love most about touring and why that's such a definitive part of your mission in this world, and how we keep that alive, even if for the next year or 2 years things are in flux. How do you keep your energy up? Have you thought a bit about that?
I have been thinking about that. This actually, 2020 was my first year with the help of a booking agent. So it's been the first time that I've had so I was pretty excited. Like the tour that I was on, that got canceled halfway through, was the first time I'd had any help at all booking a tour. So I was really excited. Like things are going better than ever. Um, Playing like venues that would never respond to me will respond to my friend Lee. They respond to him, and like there was some really healthy and exciting momentum. Every city we were going to, like that venue that always would say no, was like, okay, we can do it. And um, so for that to come to a halt, really was messed with my brain, because I thought this was like finally my opportunity to like kind of make it to the next level, kind of level up. And but it's okay. It's like, I don't know. Because yeah, what I like about touring, like to answer your question, is the people and it's the moments. And one thing that, since I've always said like I believe in the now. All of the past moments, like they are eternal to me. Like playing inside someone's house or someone's garage, as we've done before together, like in Clarksville, like that's everything to me. There is no better moment than that. So in some ways it felt a little disheartening, but I've found light in just knowing that no matter what happens, um, moments will still happen, and it's definitely gonna look different. I know a lot of venues are gonna close, and even when venues do open back up, like let's say if the whole thing just ended today, you're gonna have every single band booking a tour at the same time. It's just gonna be really, really hard to get into venues. So I think it's gonna really require I think it's going to be a really interesting time for like DIY culture, because once people start being like, okay, I don't feel comfortable being around 1,000 people, but I can go to a house show, whenever that point hits. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of room for that. So I feel hopeful that although it might not look like what I thought this year was going to look like getting to play a little bit bigger clubs or whatever, like that doesn't matter. As long as there's still people, because that's what I love about touring. It's just like people and moments and playing music, and that can't really go away. I mean, I said it could never go away, and then this happened, and it almost felt like I was just totally ignorant. But so maybe it can go away for a second, but I mean, there will be something like if the next tour I have to do, there's like a 10-person ticketed capacity at every show, I would still go out and do it. Like, and it would be really fun. So I feel hopeful that so much of live music and touring is malleable. Like the whole art form is about adjusting every night, right? Like you go on at a different time, you're in a different city, the crowd reacts a different way. So much of it changes every single day that I don't really feel terrified about how it's going to look differently. I just know it's just going to be more adjusting. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does. You know, and you're speaking right to me. We carry a very similar mentality, I think, from what I'm gathering. It's you know, some of the best shows that that I've ever played have been in front of half a dozen people, right? I remember a distinct weekend where we used to kind of play and tour a little bit more, and we had this really interesting run where it was like we were playing in a big room with just a couple of folks. We played another room, and it was totally packed out. We got lucky enough to open up for a big band, and the night with just a couple of people where you can totally be free and you can digest the vibrations of every individual in a room, because you can never be so empathetic to give it all to, let's say, 1,500 people.
Right.
But you can give everything to half dozen, whatever, 2 dozen people in a room, and blow their minds and have a collective reciprocal experience. And I love the vision that you're painting here, and I'm seeing it now. I'm just wandering, walking. I'm in East Nashville, Tennessee right now, walking around knowing that, you know, every other house is going to be hosting a party because we have to cap things at like 10 people. And I think we'll have
Yeah,
really
right.
interesting immersive experiences.
I totally agree. I think that that's what's going to rise out of the ashes. I think
Mm.
it's just some really, even if it feels devastating, I think there's going to be some really beautiful and more intimate moments that we can have, which is cool, you know?
Yeah, I completely agree. So I've never been to one of these, Nordista, but I've heard about these, and I'd love for you to kind of share the lineage of the parties or party that you threw at Lucky Bamboo on Charlotte, which is personally one of my favorite Chinese restaurants. And then when
Wow.
I started hearing theories, but I never went. I've only heard rumors. So can you tell me a bit about that, and can you debunk any rumors, or what is the situation there?
Well, so like I guess it goes back to the start. I mean, a big part of, as I said, like I've always, one of my favorite things about music is community and it's people coming together. So I remember when I was in my first band in high school, I was like, I wanted to throw like an end of the year party. We were like about to finish, I think my sophomore or junior year of high school. And I was like, what if we just had every band play like one big party? And I remember one of my friends was like, that's the most Freeze thing I've ever heard. And I love that. I was like, that's great. That's exactly, because that is what I care about most. And so I started scheming up. And then after my senior year of high school, I threw my first Freezefest, which is basically my way of saying I'm going to throw a festival and any band that I know is going to play. Like, this is my world. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
This is Freeze's brain. Like, everybody who I know should come play. And it was like 15 bands over 3 days. And then a year later, I did it again, and it was like 30 bands. And then in 2017, I just put out, I was like, basically signups for whoever wanted to play. And I had 120 bands sign up. And I was just like, I have to do this. So I hit up Fat Bites in Donaldson, Julie,
Yeah.
and she was like, I was like, hey, I've got this festival. It's going to be like 5 days long. It's going to be like 2 stages. You're going to have thousands of people show up over the course of this week. Can I do this? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. She just didn't need any more information. So we did that in 2017. And then in Lucky Bamboo, that was my first time trying something with a little bit of a different spin. I wanted to create a prom for people that like maybe didn't have a great prom experience in high school. So in my head, I got 8 bands to play at Lucky Bamboo on the west side on that like wooden, because they've got this like classic like wooden, it just looks like it was built for prom in like the 70s, wooden stage, wooden floor with a disco ball. And so I had 8 bands playing, each of them covered a different decade of like prom music from the 30s to the 90s. And I thought it was a pretty weird idea. I was like, I don't know if anybody, I was like, I hope 100 people come out. That was going to be a good night for me. And turned out it was actually just a very popular idea. And we had 540 people show up to Lucky Bamboo, which was completely over capacity. But the owners, they loved it. They just set up like a bar, and they were just serving like plates of hot food. And I mean, it was completely unsustainable, but it was the most magical moment, like maybe ever. I was just like so happy. There was everybody was dressed in these crazy space proms, so either like aliens or like they're from the 80s. It's just like retro futuristic thing. It was so crazy. It was so special. And now we've been able to move it to like Mercy Lounge. And then this year we did it at the Basement East, which is crazy to think about. We played a sold out show at the Basement East, Space Prom 3. And now there are no more concerts, and the Basement East doesn't exist right now. So it can change, because that was February. And so it's crazy. But like, that was just then. And that was one of the best nights of my life. So it's just wild.
Well, I'll say this. I've been lucky enough to be in contact with the folks over at Basement East. I know they're going to come back better and stronger than ever, and all of their fantasies about that room are just going to go to the next level too, because you know it's a complete tragedy, and we all have so many precious memories there. I mean, the last thing I did was dress up as a police officer, run out into the audience, and beat people with a baton. And then the next time I went there I was standing inside of a building with no roof, completely destroyed. Man. And then I think about like just the hundreds of amazing shows that happen there and across the city that are on pause, and the amount of great songs and free flowing moments that are not happening in Nashville and across the country because of this moment. Yeah. But creativity it doesn't go away. It just moves to different cubby holes. So
totally.
You know, a lot of folks are still recovering from the paralysis of an unstable moment, an unknown moment. But what are you sensing from your friends and the people you've been in contact with? Well, what are they spending their times doing? I mean, what are some freaky things, and what's the standard? From what you're seeing from your homies?
That is, yeah. Well, to what you say on creativity, you know, I went to Lipscomb University for, I guess, 2.5 years before I dropped out. And I'll never forget this one guest speaker that came, and he talked about creativity, and the whole idea that he had was that creativity comes from restriction. You know, a lot of times we think it comes from just having infinite resources. Like we all dream about being some sort of Kanye West figure with endless money who can just like have all of his crazy production dreams come true. But like so much of, and the more I thought about it, many of my favorite records, so many of my favorite albums come from there being a lot of restriction, you know, especially like 60s music that I like maybe they just didn't have everything we have now, but that, like the Sonics are a band I really like. And it's just like some kids in a garage, you know, maybe they have like one microphone. And so I try to remain optimistic, because I know that it never was through an abundance that I was able to create. Like my most fond memories creating were like probably when I first started in 7th grade with one microphone and a 4-track recorder in my room. And so like, yeah, there's that. So when I think about my friends and what we're going through with quarantine, it is devastating. There's a lot of people who have a lot more financial devastation or situational devastation than me, because my family lives in town. I live in their basement. for the time being. Like I'm just not going to pay rent. I'm going to be okay. And, but I know it's hard for people, but when we think about creativity, I do think that like there's a lot of beauty that's going to come out of that restriction. Right now, as you said, it's kind of hard for me and a lot of my friends to be able to create like what you said, because of the transition and the uncertainty. I'll say that like, yeah, as soon as I got into quarantine week 1, I was like, I'm going to write an entire album starting now, right? I got on my guitar, and for a couple of days I was burning pretty hot. And then pretty soon I found that I was staring at the ceiling more than I was writing anything. Like I kind of just was feeling pretty existentially dreading, like this whole dreading songwriting. I was like, I don't even know what to write about. I don't even know what I'm doing right now. I don't even know what the future is going to look like. And so I wound up trying to maybe focus on simpler things. And I think a lot of my friends have too, where we're just trying to day by day meet some very attainable goals. For me, I'm trying to read 30 pages of whatever book I'm reading every day. Or like I'm like going on a run every single day. It's not a crazy difficult run. It's not that I'm trying to like prepare, like I'm not trying to do anything that's that's unattainable. I'm doing French lessons on Duolingo, just a few a day, just very attainable things I can do to slowly grow as an artist or a creative or a human in ways that I can. And I found that to be really healthy for me, because if I can make it a couple weeks, like, hey, you know, I read every single day, you know, I'm really like, the most of my life up to this point has been about pushing myself and burning as hot as I can, pushing myself to the limit. But I've found that just doesn't really work for me in quarantine. Because I'll push myself really hard for a day, but then I'll burn out. And it's better for me to like try to have some mindful habits. And so with creativity, like one of my friends, she's just like, if I can write maybe 4 lines of a song today, that's a success. And just trying to like the small successes right now, at least for the first like time. I mean, I know we're weeks into it at this point, but it still feels like the beginning of what it might be. So I think that's what, at least in my circle, that's what a lot of my friends have been doing. They haven't been like creating this epic thing with like 100 songs. It's just been like working every day to just slowly be healthy and just be on top of their life in whatever way they can.
Well, in some ways, one of the odd silver linings of this is pre-pandemic, I had many conversations about being able to enjoy that relaxed Parisian lifestyle, right? Where it's just like, oh, what you do is you read and you sip your cappuccinos and you bask in the sunshine, you lay out and all these things. But there's 2 conflicting realities here, right? Because the one thing that you mentioned, which is, you know, restriction of resources and environment feeds creativity, not really abundance, right? If you've ever been in a very decadent situation, let's say you get put up in a nice hotel before a show, or you just get to live this really fancy life for a little while, which some of us, we get to have those little moments where we're like, oh, this is how rich people live. This is
especially
great.
As musicians, we do, like, we'll get a little snippet of that.
That's right. Yeah. You know, I remember a distinct moment. I was lucky enough to be put up in the Soho Hotel in,
Cool.
in London. And I was just like 5-star, decked out for a whole week. Believe me, I wasn't doing any thinking. It was impossible to think. It was pure just, oh yeah, just you know, flugadoogery, I guess you could say. But now we're dealing with this battle. The battle is this, which is we can enjoy this relaxed Parisian lifestyle, but it's within the confines of complete restriction of communication, of the parties and typical stuff. And what it leads often is kind of crazy paralysis. And it seems to me that you found a really common sense solution, which is structure, sharpen the saw, build your knowledge, maybe edge your limits a little bit, right? So totally. get these runs in, get your reading in. That's I think that's really sound advice. I think a lot of people will take that home, and a lot of folks have been doing it too. I'm sure downloads of Duolingo are just through the roof right now. Right?
Yeah,
Good.
Totally. Duolingo. I've also heard like I don't know if this is true. I've heard Harvard is offering like some free classes right now, and some other places like that are just allowing like some free educational academic opportunities as well.
Mm.
Just stuff like that if anybody's interested, you know.
Hey, how viable or legit do you think that the live streaming music approach is? I mean, I find it kind of difficult to really tune in when I'm watching a live stream concert to like feel like what's really is. Do you have any creative ideas on how to make that a next level experience?
Whew, yeah, that's something I think about all the time. I have not I before this pre-pandemic, I would go live occasionally and just kind of like fireside chat style, you know, just like playing a guitar. Maybe if somebody wanted me to play something, I'd talk to people in the comments. But I really, really have not. It doesn't feel right for me to be a part of like these live stream performances. Like I'm constantly thinking about that because the first wave of like festivals happening on the internet, I'm not trying to like diss on that. Like I think it's cool. I think it's good that people are creating things, but it definitely it's definitely felt like we're still in like phase one of like throwing this idea like, because the reality is for me personally as a consumer of music, I am not interested in that. I am not interested in that. Like I'm
Right.
just putting that out there. It's not, maybe I'm wrong, maybe everyone else is, but I don't like watching bands perform live through like their iPhone microphone. And like, so I don't know, I am thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a lot. I'm not really sure what the solution is yet, so I hate to like have a critique without a solution. I will say this personally, I prefer watching just like, I don't know, I prefer watching somebody create something even if it's not live. Like I don't know.
Right.
I just like I do like when people make creative stuff. So I think that people, I mean, iMovie's free. I think I would love to see people just making weird stuff on the internet. It doesn't even have to just be like a live them sitting there with a guitar. Like make a music video, even if it's lo-fi. Like
Oh, I love that. I would, along with the eventual renaissance of house shows, I would love to see everybody become everyone push their own minds to create really crazy solo music videos or art pieces that
yeah,
that you have time to mess with, right? So some folks are still in this spot. I mean, I think we're being a little generous. A lot of folks are still working, and we appreciate those frontline workers who are out there busting butt and doing their thing. But a lot of the creative community, which would typically be, sitting behind the bar or running the espresso machine, working a day job, is not doing that now.
yeah,
And we should be making really freaky, trippy videos, which I think could be a good counter to the live stream situation. Just like, yeah, cut something together. It only takes an hour to assemble something weird, and just kind of the archaeologist. Nobody might watch it, but the archaeologist will eventually find that during this moment, maybe it's already happening. A lot of weird videos have been coming out.
yeah. Bronze Eye Blonde have been making some crazy stuff. So
Yeah, Scott is great. Scott is really
yeah.
really great.
I love what he does. So hopefully, yeah, I'm just excited. I just want people to create. I just think create as much as you can. You have a phone, you can do anything on it. So, I mean, if people do just want to set up and play their guitar, that's cool. I'm not a very good guitarist, so maybe I'm just insecure. But I don't know, just not anything's on the table. You know, we can break all the rules now. We're just all in our homes, so we can make whatever we want to make. We can create, do anything. You know.
I completely agree. I will say this right quick. You want to turn off your camera and then turn it back on real quick. So don't exit the meeting, but just turn on and off your camera. It might bring your stream back in. I think that our live stream is being interrupted by maybe some internet bug.
Oh, snap. Okay, yeah, let's see. What do I do here?
Yeah, so you should see.
Stop
Is it
video? Is that what I do?
stop video? Yep, exactly. Stop video and then start video, and then it should. My guess is it'll bring you back in proper. Hey, there you are.
My back?
Perfection. Yeah, man.
Sweet, man.
So
Cool.
if you could share a message with every single person on the planet, you can get right in their ear. What short statement would you share with every single person in the world?
Hmm.
Easy question.
I would say there is I think what I wind up telling people the most these days is this scripture that my dad had me memorize when I was little. It was said, "Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough troubles of its own." And that's what's been really. I think about that a lot. You know, whatever you believe in, I think that's a really wise saying, and I just think I think that's very true. Like tomorrow will have its own set of worries. Obviously, sometimes that might feel a little idealistic. You do maybe have to look ahead at times, but as much as you can, just if you're feeling existential, just like devastated by this, just try to make it through today. And I think that goes back to what we're saying, just even if it's just simple stuff, you know, just celebrate in the simple ways you can with people. And tomorrow, do it again. And day by day, we will overcome this, and we will, in whatever ways we have to, we'll adjust, and in other ways we'll bounce back, and, you know, we'll overcome.
I think that's a brilliant nugget of knowledge. And with that, we'll wrap this thing up. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Mr. Nordista Freeze, a definitive Nashville artist, Nashville native, OG of the century. Some have said, and I will say this again because I think it's so true, Dan Reeder, Aquabats, Child, Sunglasses, Swagger, a million times over. I appreciate your time, Mr. Nordista.
I appreciate you, man. I wish you all the best, man. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this, and I wish you the best on this campaign, man.
Hey, thank you, buddy. It's a crazy time to campaign, but we shall persevere.
You've got this, man.
Thank you, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Peace.
Peace.